Hello, Midnight Coders, and welcome to a new video series. So, you can write Java code, you can build controllers, services, and repositories are not a problem. But if somebody asked you why your code is structured the way it is, would you have an answer? If you follow tutorials that worked, but you still feel lost starting your own project, this series is for you. Most junior developers don't struggle with syntax. They struggle with decisions and in-depth understanding of their code base. You don't need more tutorials. You need to understand why your code is structured the way that it is and why it works. So in this series, we're not just building a Spring Boot project, we're building the thinking behind a professional Java software. Midnight Coder is a developer-focused social platform that lets engineers showcase their skills, experience, and real projects in one structured, portfolio-driven profile. Almost like having a dynamic resume or CV ready to go with the pass of a link. A true portfolio-first social platform where developers are represented by their work, not just their title. So, make sure you've got that full cup of coffee, and let's dive on in. So, here we are going to start with a fresh project. Going to be a Spring Boot. This will be the Midnight Coder. We are going to stick this into our YouTube series Midnight Coder. Just going to call this Midnight Coder. This will be Java. We want to create a Git. Dev.midnightcoder. We're using Java 25. Spring Boot. All right. Next, we want to make sure we've got Spring Boot 4 selected. And then we're going to look at taking in Spring Web. This will provide us with the tools needed to build RESTful APIs and handle HTTP requests. In this application, it's going to help our application communicate with the outside world through the use of controllers and endpoints. We are also going to look for Spring Data JPA. This is a persistence abstraction that lets us work with databases using Java objects rather than raw SQL. And it allows us to model our domain clearly and persist data while keeping database logic out of our business code. The next thing that we're going to throw together here is an H2 database for our development. And I'm going to throw in a PostgreSQL driver for our production ready. Next thing that we're going to look for is validation. So we're going to include some validation here. Validation is a framework for validating incoming data using annotations and constraints. So we are adding this to enforce rules so that invalid data never reaches our core logic. Also, we're going to be including Spring Security. The Spring Security is a comprehensive framework for authentication and authorization in Spring applications. We are adding this because security is a fundamental thing with real applications, and we want to design with access control in mind right from the get-go on day one. The next one that we'd like to put in here is going to be the Spring Boot actuator. The Spring Boot actuator provides production-ready endpoints for monitoring application metrics and health. We are adding this as it introduces operational awareness early on and showing how our application is observed and managed in real environments. Each dependency we add is intentional. Each one solves a problem that we know we'll be facing in our application lifecycle. So with this, we're going to create the project. And once it has been created and imported, you will make sure that it will run. All right, so let's go back into our project. As you can see here, we no longer need this public statement, and we can reassure that this project will run. Here we go. Everything's set up and run. We have a default admin password for our security. So now we're going to design the package structure for our application so that when we start writing code next episode, every decision has a place to go. Package structure is how we communicate intent to future developers, ourselves included. So we start at the home directory of our project, where the main files will reside. This is typically the company domain in reverse. So in our case, midnightcoder.dev, it is going to be dev.midnightcoder. Once inside of our company root, we will then build our domain modules inside of the inside for our top level packages. So for example, here we're going to make a new package for identity. Identity. What this represents is identity is about who a user is from a systems perspective. So things that live here are authentication related logic, user identity data, and login and registration workflows. Identity answers who you are, not what you've done. So next, we are going to be making a profile. What does this represent? A profile is about how a user presents themselves to the world. So what sort of information lives here? Bio information, skills, work history, and public facing user data. Profiles change often. Identity should not. The next package that we're going to be making is a team. What does a team represent? A team is a collaboration of users that work together within this boundary. Things that live here are teams, roles, invitations, and potentially projects, relations. Next thing that we have is projects. So what does this represent? Projects represent work that is owned by either a team or an individual. A project doesn't care about the owner, only rather how ownership is enforced. The next part that we're going to have will be a notification. What is a notification? A notification is about reacting to events, not initiating behavior. So what lives here is event listeners, email or messaging logic, and asynchronous reactions. Side effects should be decoupled from your core logic. Also, we are going to include a common. What does the common represent? This is a shared technical concerns that are not a part of the actual domain. For example, error handling, security configurations, utilities. If it understands the business, it doesn't belong in the commons. And now, inside of each of these modules, they're each going to have their own internal structure. So inside of each one is going to consist of a domain. Domain is where we model the data that we're storing into the database. There's no framework concerns here. The next the next package that we're having is a service. This is where services coordinate behavior and enforce rules. So this is where decisions are made. Next on our list will be a repository. This is an abstraction of how we interface with our database. So there's no business logic that goes in here. As well, we are also going to have a DTO package. DTOs, or data transfer objects, these define what the module exposes to the outside world. These prevent the domain from leaking outward into the public. And lastly, we are going to add in a web, or commonly known as controller. The web layer is an adapter that is where your controllers, your HTTP concerns, and mapping between DTO and service. There's no actual business logic here. So if you understand this structure, you'll never again wonder where your code belongs. This is where software development gets a little bit easier. Before we wrap up, let's take a step back and recap what we actually did today and talk about where we're going. Because this isn't just about clicking through a setup wizard. We defined the scope of our project and how we're going to approach it. We are intentional about the dependencies that we've added. Each one exists to solve a specific problem that we know we're going to face later. Web APIs, persistence, validation, security, observability, and testing. I hope that this clears up some of the questions about where your code lives and gives you an idea about where you can add your next new class. So up to this point, we haven't actually written a single line of business logic code. So next time, we're going to start writing code, but we're not going to rush into controllers and databases just yet. Instead, we will be building the base CRUD operations for our domains. Users, teams, projects, profiles, things of that nature. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've learned something. Hit that like button if you did. And if you'd like to learn more, remember to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications to be notified when I post the next episode or when I go live. And as always, keep your curiosity open, your skills sharp, and that coffee cup full. I'll catch you in the next one.